From the William B. Travis Building in Austin, Texas, we're keeping Texas energy on track. Here's your host, Bryce Doobie.
Welcome to Texas Energy on Track. I am your host, Bryce Doobie, joined as always by Nick Cranock, our producer extraordinaire. Nick, how are you doing?
Doing good. Nice to be back, and nice to be here talking about pipeline safety. So it should be another fun episode.
Yeah, we are super excited to be joined by Stephanie Weidman. She is the Pipeline Safety Director for the Railroad Commission of Texas, which we'll get into a whole bunch of things, but this is not a small job, is it, Stephanie?
No, it's definitely not, but never a dull day here.
No, I mean, I think first and foremost, let's just get into just a little background about yourself. How long have you been with the commission? What did you do before coming to RRC? Tell us about yourself.
So I've been with the commission 15 years, and honestly, all in pipeline safety. I started as an inspector out of Corpus Christi and then moved up to Austin as an inspector. And then we kind of had a reorg, and they had added regional managers, so I was a regional manager for a bit. And then this pipeline safety director position opened up, and so took that 7 to 10 years ago. I'm confused. The timeline's a little rough. Yeah, so it's been great. And prior to that, I worked for the Bureau of Land Management for the feds, which is it was a little different. There's a helium facility out in Amarillo, Texas. And I worked for that helium facility, which, come for a circle, that helium facility ended up going off for sale. And I had to deal with it last year with a pipeline operator that acquired it. So interesting times.
So I think jumping into kind of the shallow end of all of this, when people they go to our website or they hear the term, we're talking pipeline safety. What are we talking about? What kind of pipes? What kind of safety? I mean, to keep it real simple, what is sort of the entry-level elevator pitch for what pipeline safety is?
Yeah, so I mean, we're going to say it depends almost in every scenario, but overall, we have authority over, as it leaves the wellhead, especially in larger diameter pipelines and whatnot. So on the gathering side, we have some jurisdiction there. On the gas side, all the way until it gets to your home. So gathering lines, taking it out of the field. There's gas transmission lines, transporting it across Texas, and then it goes to customer bases, either large volume customers like power plants, or it goes to a distribution center like your cities. So city of Austin, there's Texas Gas or ONEOK that supplies Austin. There's also Atmos Energy that supplies Austin. So that's just on the gas side. And then on the hazardous liquid side, we have crude oil pipelines as well. Pretty much the same thing, as it's coming out of the wellhead and it starts gathering and it reaches certain pipeline sizes. We have jurisdiction over crude pipelines and then highly volatile liquids. So ethylene, propane, anything that's in a liquid form and highly volatile. And then also product pipelines. So gasoline, diesel, jet fuel, all of those. They're from the refinery really to where the endpoint is, which is usually a terminal facility near an airport.
So, I mean, and correct me if I'm wrong, but if it's a hydrocarbon and it's flowing through a pipe in the state of Texas, y'all are keeping an eye on it.
Pretty much. Yeah. Yeah. We do our best to keep eyes on it. And so it's, there are some exemptions in areas here or there, so we have to look at each situation separately. But yeah, as a whole, if there's a hydrocarbon in it, we are paying attention to it.
And it is worth noting that Texas does have the largest pipeline infrastructure in the nation. I mean, we're talking thousands of miles, millions of miles, I don't know.
Thousands of miles, yeah, around hundreds of thousands of miles specifically.
Hundreds of thousands of miles. And how big is the team? I mean, you guys are, I assume you have inspectors all across the state. You guys are doing work everywhere.
We do. We have 7 regional offices all spread out across the state. They usually line up with our oil and gas offices as well, but the regions are kind of where the pipes are. So, Corpus, Houston, East Texas, Dallas, Fort Worth, Midland, West Texas, and the Panhandle. And so we have 3 regional directors that assist with that area, one over our north regions, one over our south regions, and then a special projects training type group. And then around, staff-wise, all the way across, we have 85 or so inspectors right now, but we're growing. We actually have a lot of vacancies as well because we recently requested additional employees for a new gathering line rule that went into effect a couple years ago, and we really have staff up. It increased our regulated miles by 35,000 miles or so, which is a huge number. Yeah. So we have vacancies, so we're hiring.
I think that's a plug into our next episode where we talk to human resources. So you can get all the info if you want to be a pipeline safety inspector in our next episode.
Excellent plug. Well, we're kind of talking through all of this. I mean, with the role of pipeline safety, can you kind of walk us through what that looks like as far as our role in overseeing this? So let's just a hypothetical. There's a pipe. It's running natural gas from Permian Basin to a facility in Corpus or something like that. Where does the RRC fit in?
Yeah, so we really fit in once the pipeline is being built. So once the construction phase starts. A little caveat that not many people are aware, but we don't have jurisdiction over the siting of pipelines or the location of the pipelines.
Okay.
Those agreements are between kind of the operator and the landowner themselves. So the Railroad Commission doesn't have any jurisdiction over where the pipeline starts and stops. So our jurisdiction really starts once the operator has kind of their final investment decision and they know that they're building a pipeline. They have to provide notice to the commission within between 30 and 60 days. It depends on the size of the project. And that's where our jurisdiction starts. We look at the pipeline itself and make sure it's constructed properly. There's welding qualifications, joining qualifications, backfill requirements, coating requirements for the actual pipeline. And then once it's built, we have routine standard comprehensive inspections. So we perform inspections, like I said, on the pipeline itself, ensuring that operators are following all the requirements and operation and maintenance in the field. So we go out to the field to check that, and then we look at records as well to ensure that. So we have standard comprehensive inspections, lots of program type inspections. We call those specialized evaluations because there's certain programs that are required in the regulations. Public awareness program, an operator qualification program, integrity management program, and tons of different programs, and those have to be inspected every 5 years as well.
So it really does seem like you all are keeping tabs on these pipelines really throughout their lifetime, from that initial construction project, then really throughout the pipeline's use. I mean, how often do you inspect the pipelines?
Yeah, so we at least every 5 years. So a little background, we are certified with the Pipeline and Hazardous Material Safety Administration. We like to call PHMSA because we like to put words for acronyms all the time.
It's a fun acronym.
With the government. You love it. So we're certified with the feds to enforce the federal regulations in the state of Texas. So every state has a pipeline safety program. So the Railroad Commission is responsible for administering that in the state of Texas. And with that, we have guidelines and requirements with that certification. So at least every 5 years for a standard comprehensive, and same thing for a specialized evaluation. We obviously have risk factors, though, in place. And when we have so much pipe, we have a inspection system that has algorithms with all sorts of risk factors so nothing gets left behind. Those risk factors might be like your inspection history, violation history, leak history, incident history, location. Just being in a more populated area might bring you more inspections. So it's a minimum every 5, and then sometimes additional, just depend on risk.
And depends, I would imagine, too, on like the type of pipe and what's going through it and all those things as well, I'm sure.
Yeah, on some aspects of it, it definitely does. The size of pipe, sometimes a term in the rules called a high consequence area. So we really try to pay attention to those high consequence areas, more populated areas opposed to others. But then, we have a lot of pipe in rural locations that we don't want to get left out. So we make sure that those are inspected every 5 years as well.
And so when we're talking these inspections, the inspector, are they going out with a clipboard? I mean, what is sort of like the entry level? What are they looking for when they're checking out a pipeline somewhere?
Yeah, so very high level, they're ensuring that the operator is following the regulations. So that starts with us. We contact the operator and set up a time to schedule an inspection. We go out to the operator's office and we check all of their records. So there are different operation and maintenance requirements that are in the rules: cathodic protection, leak surveys, patrolling, just to name a few. So we'll go out and look at the operator's records to ensure that it's documented. And then we go out to the field and actually put eyes on the pipeline itself and spot check all throughout either that specific pipeline or if it's a distribution system. And we'll spot check different areas to ensure what they're saying they're doing on paper that they're actually doing out in the field.
So they're going out and then walking. I mean, not the whole length of it, but they are checking the pipeline itself and not just like looking at a chart somewhere.
Yeah, no, we're actually checking the pipeline itself. So taking readings on the pipeline, checking if there's repaired leaks in the area. We go back out and ensure that they are repaired properly. Yeah, we actually go out and put eyes on the pipeline itself.
What are some of the more common types of pipeline incidents that you may see?
Yeah, so on the hazardous liquid side, there is a reporting requirement for all operators if you meet the definition of an incident or accident. On the liquid side, it's a small spill. It's a 5-gallon spill, and you're required to call it into the Railroad Commission, and we have to do an investigation. So the majority of our incidents are smaller spills like seal leaks or a valve leak, not a rupture necessarily. Unfortunately, when those ruptures do happen, we investigate those as well, getting few and far between. They're getting less and less as the regulations are enhanced and operators staff up and ensure, the pipelines are being maintained safely.
Now, some of these pipelines, correct me if I'm wrong. Some of them are old. There's the new ones that are going in. We see this sort of mentioned, but there are older ones as well. Are there particular challenges as far as if they're doing upgrades, replacements for those? How does all of that work?
Yeah, so pipelines have been in the ground for decades, essentially. So we have pipes ranging from the 1940s, the 1930s to put in the ground yesterday. And everything comes with, different risk factors. So really for those aging pipelines, it's just making sure that they're maintained properly. If they're maintained properly, they will last in the ground for over 100 years, which we've seen. We have some pipelines that are over 100 years old. If they have corrosion control and ensuring that the corrosion's good, or if the coating is appropriate, is in good tact and maintained, then everything, looks well. There's also integrity management rules that the operators are required to do. They have to assess each pipeline specifically and look at the internal aspects of that pipeline. So they call them smart pigs.
I've seen a video of those. Those are super cool.
Yes. So, operators can pig a pipeline. It's essentially running like a rubber tool down the pipeline to clean the pipeline. And so that's where the term pigging, I think, originally came from. And then if it's smart, it can actually look and assess the pipeline. So that's where the smart pig came from. It's an inline inspection where the operator has to run an assessment tool through the pipeline, and you can actually assess what's going on internally, look at corrosion defects, if there's any dents, if someone's hit the pipeline and didn't report it. All sorts of things you can learn from those tools.
That's actually a really good segue as far as hitting a pipeline and things like that. For me, Joe Public, homeowner, I know I drive through my neighborhood and I saw there was some work going in, I think on some electrical or something, but they had marked out all the little yellow flags for where the gas lines were. And you always are like, oh yeah, there are gas lines that go to all these houses and all these things throughout these neighborhoods. What do I need to know as just a member of the public if I'm thinking about, I get a big raise and I'm going to put in a swimming pool in my backyard or something like that? Are there anything is that something that y'all falls on you guys, or how does all of that work?
Yeah, so if you're a general homeowner and you're looking to put in a pool, you want to call before you dig. And the number is 811. It's a free call. It notifies one call centers across Texas, and it notifies all utilities to mark their facilities. But that also includes natural gas pipelines. So, you do not want to be responsible for hitting a natural gas pipeline. It is extremely dangerous if you hit that. But also, it can be costly. You get the operator has to come out to make repairs, and then depending on the severity of it, there might be emergency response. So you definitely want to call before you dig. And that's for everything, because they'll mark cable, they'll mark water lines, utilities, electricity. It's all under the one call. Specifically for Railroad Commission and pipeline safety, we have jurisdiction over the natural gas pipelines, or natural gas and liquid pipelines. So if you start digging and you hit a pipeline, you're going to have to call the Railroad Commission to report it and to the operator.
And you're talking about homeowners, neighborhoods, and things. You mentioned a lot of pipelines to these bigger, say, like subdivisions, like around Austin, Houston, Dallas. When they're developing new subdivisions like that, are we a part of the gas pipelines going into those new subdivisions, or is that something that's pre-planned where you can easily hook up, or you have to start a whole new pipe? How does that work?
So they're usually pre-planned. This is something the commission doesn't have authority over, but at the same point, we understand how the process works. Those are pre-planned communities. And as we grow further out, especially in these larger towns, the gas has to come into that town somehow. And when you're transporting gas across the state, you're dealing with larger diameter pipelines. So if you're like, well, I'm in a neighborhood, it's probably just a small little pipeline. There could be a 30-inch pipeline behind your house that the subdivision built around. The pipeline was there first, the subdivision built around, and that's how you're getting gas into the city. So definitely always important to call before you dig.
And for folks who live in some of these communities who know that they may live near a pipeline or something, and maybe if it's more rural or something like that, and they know, hey, over on there, that's the easement for that. What should those folks know about potential hazards or keeping an eye out? Because you said, I know we've talked about it, there's signage and things like that that's required. What do I know if I'm out at a ranch or something like that, and I know, hey, that's where the pipeline runs and something seems off? Do you have any advice for those folks?
Yeah. So, first off, just know what's in your surrounding and what's your area. So we have a public GIS viewer on our website. It's on the front page. You can also, in the search bar, just search public GIS viewer. If you turn on the pipeline visibility feature, you have to turn turn that specifically one on, it's defaulted to oil and gas. You can put your address in the top right or any address in the state of Texas, and it'll show you all pipelines in that area. Now, that is just transmission pipelines. If you're in a city and you have distribution, we don't require those to be mapped because it would literally be every single street in that city. So familiarize yourself with what is in the around the area. Know kind of the location of that pipeline. All pipelines are required to have signage and warning signs with an emergency number, and know those areas, because if there's anything going on with the pipeline, I wouldn't get closer to it. If you think there's a leak or something, I'd stay away from it, but call the emergency number for the operator, or if all else fails, call the Railroad Commission and we can get in touch with the operator. And we have a toll-free emergency line number as well that's answered 24/7.
That's great. Yeah, there's so much information on our website for these things. I know you mentioned the GIS. I think I've said this at least on 2 other podcast episodes. I go into all of our map features and just kind of play around with them to see like what's in some of these areas. There's so much. It's neat to me. I guess I'm just a big nerd on that stuff. But it's nice like getting them and be like, oh, there's that pipeline that runs there. Oh, that goes over here. Oh, here's where the wells are. It's just kind of seeing all those overlays. It's fascinating stuff, I guess, for very specific people.
Yeah, you don't know just how much is underground. We're used to seeing like the pump jacks and stuff, but underground, there's a lot going on across Texas. Like you said, several 100,000 miles. I forget the exact number. Can you talk a little bit about, you mentioned our inspectors, their training and what they need to know to make sure that these hydrocarbons are being transferred safely?
Yeah, so when we hire our inspectors, they can really start from any field and we train them up because they're required through our certification with PHMSA to go to in-person training in Oklahoma City at the Training and Qualification Center for PHMSA. So there's around 20 classes that they have to complete. And so it takes 3 to 5 years for them to complete all of their training. We train inspectors. We have our own internal training program. We train them for about 6 to 8 months, depending on the inspector, until they start the classes. And then after they perform our checkout, we have our own checkout form to ensure that the inspector has, an understanding of the regulations. And then they start completing those classes. As they've been here about 6 months or so, they start the classes. And like I said, it's definitely a lot, 20 or so classes over 3 to 5 years to ensure that they're trained to adequately enforce the regulations.
Coming from, you said you started off as an inspector. What was that like going through those classes? What did you think about it?
Yeah, I think those classes, they're very informative. There's a test at each end. So, it's like going back to school. It's not just a class where you get like a certificate. You go to class for a week, usually travel on Sundays and travel home on Fridays. And there's a test at the end of the week that you have to pass. If you don't pass it, you have to retake that class. So it's definitely an intense process. It's interesting. You learn so much about the regulations so quickly. You meet people from all over the United States, other pipeline safety inspectors. And I think it's helpful just to keep that networking going for other states because, we try not to operate in a bubble in Texas. Well, if we've seen something in Texas, we'll reach out to another state to see, especially our bordering states. They have as much pipeline, maybe not as many miles of pipeline, but they're still very congested like we are when it comes to pipelines. And so it gives you a great networking experience, lots of information to learn, and a lot of time driving up 35 to Oklahoma City for us. So I don't necessarily miss that, but it still is, you learn a lot.
So, just one interesting kind of clarification. I am not 100% sure on it, but you said the pipelines that we regulate are the ones that are the inter or intrastate.
Yeah, so we regulate the intrastate pipelines in Texas, those that start and stop within the state of Texas. Interstate pipelines that have a FERC certificate. It's the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission. So if they have a FERC certificate and they go across the state, they're regulated by the feds, by PHMSA, the Pipeline and Hazardous Materials Safety Administration.
Got
so
it.
our
Okay.
authority is specific to those pipelines that start and stop within Texas.
And still 400,000 miles of pipelines just in the state.
Just in the state, yes.
It's unbelievable to really think about sometimes with all of that going, especially as we see now, there's more gas facilities going up to support some of these AI centers and things like that. And I put together some of our news clips and things during the day, and I'm always seeing new pipeline proposed running from here to here, new pipeline going. I'm just like, wow, they've got their work cut out for them. It's a busy job, so it's really cool to kind of hear what you all do and how you guys are kind of growing, expanding, adding to the team.
Yeah, no, and those news clips are helpful because we ensure when we see those new pipelines, let's make sure that operator did their due diligence and they've followed all the regulations, and so far so good.
Yeah, I mean, I guess one other question I think it would be interesting with all these different liquids and things like that, not even liquids, or are they all liquids? That's a really good question.
There's a ton of different commodities that are in the pipelines. It's usually, if it's regulated, if it's a flammable or corrosive gas. So we have gas pipelines. We have on the liquid side, like I said, crude pipelines, like crude oil, jet fuel, any product that will go in your car, or like, on the highly volatile liquids, it's in a liquid form, but it's highly volatile because once it hits atmosphere, it turns into a gas and it can be highly explosive. And so it really ranges from different commodity types. I think CO2 to me is one of the more interesting ones. You can transport CO2 in a gaseous state. Usually if you're within a production area and you're producing, you have CO2 and you're utilizing it for enhanced oil recovery or something. But if you are transporting CO2 across the state, it is easier to compress it, make it cool, and it flows in like a supercritical liquid state. But it's like a fire extinguisher. So if there's a leak, it will turn into a gas.
And I assume that there's different considerations for all of these different pipelines, depending, because you said like corrosive natures and things like that. It's not just we're just buying steel pipe and run. It's different pipes for different things and different considerations on all that.
Yeah, the regulations have different requirements for, different areas of the rules. You can have polyethylene pipe on the natural gas distribution side. Steel's probably one of the more widely used pipelines because it's one of the qualified materials. And so not every material is qualified. So there's different composite materials that can be used maybe in the production side of things, but they're actually not in the regulations. So largely still steel pipelines, but we're seeing different pipe types come in.
Stephanie, thank you so much for joining us on this episode. Again, I find all of this to be really, really interesting stuff. So thanks for taking the time to talk to us today on everything.
Yeah, no, thank you for having me. It's been fun.
And Nick, we've got more episodes coming down the road, or coming down the pipe, I guess.
There you go, coming down the pipeline. Yeah, we are rocking and rolling. Of course, if you want to follow along on social media, we are at TXRRC on X, Railroad Commission of Texas on LinkedIn and Facebook, and at Railroad Commission of Texas on Instagram. So we do make it easy for you. We have not only podcast material coming out on social media, but also any announcements or just follow along with any news or anything that we post on our social media accounts. And then, of course, remember to subscribe to our podcast if you haven't done so yet. We're on all the major podcast platforms from Spotify, YouTube. We're on iHeartRadio. We're on Audible and Amazon. So we make it very, very easy to find. Just search for Texas Energy on Track, and that's where we are. We have, I alluded to earlier, the Human Resources episode is the official episode coming up next. But we also have the Veterans Special that's coming out on the day after Veterans Day. We're going to talk to some veterans from Railroad Commission. We have almost 150 veterans employed at the agency statewide. So we're going to talk to a few of those and do pay homage to them in their service, but also the service with the commission. So that'll be coming up on November 12th. And then, we'll have the Human Resources episode, and we have several other really interesting, very informative episodes coming up. So you definitely want to subscribe so you get those notifications when you post a new episode.
Yeah, and again, I know it's something that we've mentioned in previous episodes. We have increased the frequency due to popular demand. So as always, we really appreciate all the folks out there who've been listening. We are on every other week. So it is a really good time. And then one more shameless plug. I know we talked on this episode about GIS and some of the other data sets. Always, you can go to rrc.texas.gov, our website, so you can find out more about the podcast. You can find out some of the different newsletters and services we offer, and then all of just the incredible massive data sets that are available on our website. But yeah, I think that covers it for this week. Thank you so much for tuning in. We'll talk to y'all soon.